Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Live discussion session with me, Antara. Artificial intelligence, or AI as it is, has slowly but surely seeped into our personal as well as professional lives. And if you have any doubt about this sentence, then you can go ask Siri or Alexa about it. Businesses these days are appointing or implementing AI, artificial intelligence, to help improve the productivity of their employees. So basically, AI, artificial intelligence, is being used at workplace or at businesses to help human employees so that they can indulge in more creative, complex, and impactful work. But what if this artificial intelligence takes over your life and tries to do away with you, or tries to do away with me or the entire human race? Spooky, right? This is the crux of Joel Sadhanand's science fiction novel. Joel Sadhanand is our guest tonight, and we are going to talk more about his science fiction novel, The Unexpected Leader. So allow me to invite Joel Sadhanand to join the session now, and we'll understand more about this spooky topic of taking over the entire human race. So we are waiting for Joel Sadhanand to join us. Stay tuned. If you have any questions, do share in the comments. Hi, Joel. Good
Hi,
evening.
Antara. Good evening. How are you
Am I
doing?
audible?
Yes, very much. Uh,
Oh, okay,
how's my
great.
voice?
Yes, it's perfect. So, Joel, how did this idea of writing a novel based on artificial intelligence came to you? How and when did this idea came to you?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I'm a facilitator by profession, a leadership development facilitator. So I keep talking about
Okay.
leadership concepts, and that's something that's been running in my mind for several days. I'm also a tech enthusiast. I love understanding technology, and science. Science basically. I keep reading a lot. So it's a culmination of thoughts. On one side, I kept understanding leadership. On the other side, AI. I did a little bit of research on the different
Hmm.
types of AI and how AI comes in, right? And at one
Right.
point in time, both of these came together, and I had a thought, right? What happens when AI takes over leadership? That was just a thought, and that thought led me to do a lot of research. So I had certain scenarios in mind, in terms of for example, in my novel, there is one particular situation where somebody asks, "What about leaves?" Right. So there is this
Hmm.
person who asks another character leaves, and this character explains how leaves are calculated by AI. Right. So
AI.
yeah. So that's where. So that's the inception, I would say. And then over a period of time, I did a lot of research, and then the narrative kind of it just came on its way. I really didn't think of writing a novel. I thought of writing a technical book, but then I realized who reads all the boring stuff. I don't read it myself, right? So I thought why don't we just weave a story around and see how it goes.
Right. So I have my share of working in corporate world, and your story makes me wonder, like, how will it feel if I had to report to a robot or an artificial intelligence instead of a human being? A major part of organizations or big businesses, I think the human resource plays a very prominent part, where human resources, the HR part, HR department, they are actually driven with compassion, right? So that they handle their employees with compassion, so that the productivity and the what do you say, so that they stick to the job and they are not leaving or quitting. So
Right.
I really wonder if if this ever happens, like we are reporting to a robot or an AI, will there be this compassion, this this compassionate side of it or not?
Oh,
What's your take
okay,
on
that's
that?
yeah. I think that's again a very critical question. Now there are both advantages and a disadvantage. Now, ideally, human beings are biased. No matter how much you try to be rational, we are all biased. So I'm sure
Right.
you've had certain good managers, you've had certain bad managers. All of us have, right? So uh, the point number one is human beings are biased no matter so if my bias, for example, is that women cannot be productive, only men can be productive because in my society only men have been working. So I will bring that bias along, and a simple thing such as you want to take a 30-minute permission today, I will convert that into something else. So whereas an AI treats everybody objectively, the AI is not biased. So AI would treat your request as as objective as possible, and it's not going to give you any preferential treatment, or it's not going to give you any biased treatment. So that's the advantage. Now, the probable disadvantage is that when you're going through a sad phase in your life, and you need to take a time off, the AI would say, "Hey, sorry, you just cannot afford to take time off because as per the calculation, your productivity is down." Right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's going to be. But now if you understand AI, you can actually program empathy into AI. I mean,
Okay.
that's something that is possible. So uh, maybe a few years down the line, you can have an Alexa. In fact, in one of the characters is an Alexa type manager there. So you just got a
Okay.
manager. You kind of say, hey boss, I'm taking leave off. Right now, the AI
Hmm.
would run a program, leave off, empathy, all of those programs would run it, and
Okay.
it would give you a very ideal colloquial response, very cordial response saying, no problem, Mantara, take care, right? It may not sound like an actual human being. You may not get the
Hmm.
100% feel because we human beings can make those things out, but better than a boss who's biased, right? Any given day, it's better than a boss who doesn't really care about me but focuses
Right.
more on work.
So I think that will take care of the very prominent um, gossip or the notion that goes around in any of the corporate that he might have got the promotion because he is buttering, or she might have went on a date, right? That
Yes,
will take
yes,
care of that
absolutely,
aspect.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, but then, tell me, who is this unexpected leader in your novel?
Okay. Um, there are actually two or three unexpected leaders that come out. So I not revealing too much, but
Okay.
one is there are certain characters. There is the lead character, who's kind of pushed into this role. There is a lot of things that happen, and Ajit, who's the CEO
The protagonist,
who
right?
starts the
Hmm.
story, right? Ajit is
Hmm. Hmm.
one of the leader, and Ajit's protege Divya comes in a little bit later, and their relationship built. Right, of course, it's a coup, right? So Ajit kind of loses control of his company. So Ajit is trying to regain. That's one perspective. There is somebody
Hmm.
who's not even been in leadership role. Suddenly, she's made the CEO, and she's got to do something, right?
Hmm.
So does she fail? Hers is a subplot to help Ajit, right? So what
Okay.
does she do, right?
Yes.
And unexpectedly they take AI as very AI just comes in at a very important point in the story. Now, how does the AI develop, and why does the AI happen? And in fact, at the end, there is a political linkage as well. The last
Hmm.
two lines of the story, it kind of ends with
Hmm.
the whole political scenario, with the top
Okay.
brass of the politics. So it ends on a very political note of what can happen to the
Hmm.
country, what can AI do for the country. In
Right.
fact, Divya actually has a last conversation with the prime minister, and the story ends where both this lead character and the prime minister are having a coffee, and she hands over a file to the prime minister, and he
Hmm.
looks at it and say, "Okay." So a very subtle ending, but that gives a lot of options towards how can AI you be used. So the unexpected leader actually kind of relates to multiple characters. You never expect these characters to come up and take leadership roles. That's what the title is about.
So there's a lot to comprehend by the reader, like the ending or whatever is going on, the scenarios that you have written or depicted. I think there's a lot to take away and to comprehend and to figure out by the reader. Um, to be very honest, Joel, I am a big science fiction. Uh, like it's my favorite genre, and usually whenever I read or I'm watching a science fiction, there are so many. If it's a futuristic one, so there's so many jargons that are used, which makes it a bit difficult for me as a non-techie to understand. So I need to go back to literature or documents to figure out what the meaning is. So have you used anything of such, and how easy or difficult will is your novel for readers like me? What's the level
Yeah,
of difficulty?
yeah. So it's going to be absolutely easy because I'm a novice, right? So I'm not a techie by profession. So
Okay.
it took me a lot of time to understand some of these concepts. So just to understand the definition of there are two types of AI: related AI, self-learning AI, and controlled AI. Even for me to understand that, right, it took me time. So I made it a point that I was not going to use technical jargon unless and until the jargon was explained. So there will be a bit of technical jargons, but that would be either explained as part of the plot or that would be discussed between characters, and that you would see those coming alive. For example, there is a term that I've used: balance scorecard. Now, I mean, what is balance scorecard, right? So, So what happens is, in one of the scenes, the employees of the coffee shop are actually exploring the balance scorecard, and I explain how they're able to do that. So it's a scene where the whole jargon is kind of so you will be able to live the jargon. There is no telling. So you don't have to worry. It's absolutely easy for you to understand. It just flows with the story.
All right, great. Great. So I understand, as you mentioned, that you are a novelist primarily and not a technical person as such. But then I understand you have had to go through a lot of research just to make the authenticity of the terminologies or the science aspect. So just to tell me how long or what extent of research you had to go to come up with this content.
Um, yeah, I would say at least 5 years, Atara. That might sound a little, yeah, but I never thought of writing a novel first. That was not my intention. I was exploring concepts of leadership. I was exploring concepts of AI. In fact, I explored a lot about big data. While there is not much mention of big data in the novel, but big data is something that is at the back end, and AI would completely depend on what kind of infrastructure that you have. Right now, I'm getting into the technical stuff now, right? So for me to understand this, it took me almost 4 to 5 years. I've been doing courses, and so it's a level of insight, right? So the moment I started finding these levels of insight, I said, "Oh, okay, so it's not as complicated as people think. It's fairly simple." So I thought, why don't I just take that simple concept and push it along? So in my novel, in the story, what you would see is AI is all around you. It's in the computers, it's in the speakers, it's in your performance appraisal. So it's a very natural engulfing of your experience there. So there is no technical reading of the AI there, right? So for me, that research helped me convert it into a natural experience for the readers.
Okay. So, if I got it correct, did the idea of writing a novel came to you 4 years back, or it was like you started into this topic, and then eventually the idea came to you that, okay, let me write it so that I can convey the information to the general mass as well.
The idea didn't come. The idea of novel really didn't strike me, because the biggest, I would say, strength or a deterrent to a novelist is accepting that he or she is a novelist, right? So, right. So for me, I always thought, hey, I'm never going to be a writer. Writing is, here somebody. I could always think of great names, and I didn't know how the process of writing happened. I was, I think, just before the pandemic, just about six months earlier. There were certain good and not so great leadership experiences that I went through, right? And that's where there was this emotional trigger. I said, instead of having such not so great managers, we could rather have AI, right? And that's where my thought process came in. And then I started formulating the concept of if there was an AI who was a leader, if there was an AI who was actually a CEO, right? How would that be? So I spent some time understanding the technicalities of it, and once I was convinced that hey, this seems like a fairly okay framework, I wanted to write a business book, a technical book actually. But then I realized, like I said, even I don't read too much of it. People love novels, people love mystery, right? So I said the best way to communicate a message is through a mystery. So it's a very racy novel. There is a murder that happens, and the prime minister is involved.
Absolutely.
The CEO is taken off, like it's like a typical Steve Jobs going out of his company, right? There is a secret message that goes to somebody. A lot of things happening. There is a father who has a daughter with an ailment, right? And he's not able to find something. So a lot of characters there. So all of those characters come together. So in fact, there are two things. There are two main streams that come out of this novel. One is about what is good leadership, right? If you ask me today. This book just talks about 3 principles of leadership. So leadership and AI go together. AI in itself cannot sustain. AI needs mature humans to work together.
Right.
That's the whole concept. Yeah. So there is a leadership angle in the novel, and there is also an AI angle. Both of them culminate together at the end of the story.
Right. So the question now is, we need to think whether a human being or the human race will be in that situation and will be that acceptable to let AI take over and rule either a company or a nation. So that's something that we need to think about, I think, going ahead. So, is there any particular scene from this book, from this story, which is closest to your heart, that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few. Not revealing the essence of the story too much. At the beginning of the story, there is this very typical father, workaholic father, who struggles with his daughter Shreya. Shreya's got a particular physical ailment, and just like myself, I'm a father myself. I've got a little girl, two little girls now, and I understand managing these little children can be little tough, right? So this father goes through that experience, and at the end of the whole story, because of what happens to other characters in the story, when he realizes, especially what happens to Ajit, and how Ajit's story ends, he has this wow moment of, oh, this is what I've been missing about my daughter, and he actually goes back and he realizes how he should have behaved with her, and how he should be looking at the potential rather than just looking at her day-to-day struggles. So I think that's one. Second is my second favorite incident or or series of things is the relationship between Ajit and Neha, right? So Ajit and the lead character, they really don't
Okay.
talk much, and in fact, Ajit is kind of leader who lets her take over. So in fact, even
Okay.
though he hires her to run his plot, he sees that she's got potential, and he kind of steps back, and he lets her take over as
Take
much
over
as
and
and,
run.
and, and see
Mm-hmm.
where the whole story goes, right? So
Mm.
there's a beautiful dynamic between Neha and Ajit, both of them together. I
Ajit.
think those two are my favorite because it's how the relationship evolves over a period of time. And in fact, at the end of the story, Ajit has made a huge impact on her, and because of that, she's able to go and talk to the prime minister in the end.
Mm.
That could actually change the fate of the country, right? And Ajit
Right.
didn't do much, but just have a few conversations.
So I have been able to read a few chapters, a few pages. I'll be very honest. I'll make a honest confession. I have not been able to complete it. But then um, I started and then I couldn't continue. But you you you're saying that you are revealing too much about the story, but I think you have just said enough to convince and to make people wonder that how soon we can go and read this book. I have it, so I'm thinking like, okay, I need to go and get it. Like, it sounds so interesting, and I think this book is available. The Unexpected Leader is available as a Kindle on Amazon, as well as the paperback is available on Amazon and Notion Presses books online bookstore.
Yes.
Um, and Flipkart as well. But there might be a delay these days due to the
Yeah.
lockdown. But then you can definitely get the Kindle. My friends who are watching, so the Kindle is available. But get your hands on the paperback from Amazon or from wherever it's available. So,
Sure. Uh,
uh,
just
so
just one thing, Andre, if you don't
yes,
mind. One of the feedbacks that I've received, I thought it will help everyone as well, is
yes,
people were when you think of science. In fact, the first paragraph starts with the pandemic, and there's a nice setting of very subtle link to the how the pandemic starts. So there is a hint that this could look like a typical science fiction with all of those bells and whistles, right? So this is while it is a science fiction novel, but there are no spaceships, there are no gunfights, and Star Wars. This is just a thriller drama that happens, let's say, in the future. It's purely corporate drama, if I may say. So just a bit of setting those expectations. There are no gunfights and there are no Star Wars or bio wars happening.
I
Not
think
that
that's
kind of an adrenaline rush.
I think I absolutely get that, and I think that is the USP of the book because every corporate worker, whoever is working, is able to relate to it, just like I was able to relate to it. And I remember when I was touring with your book, and I was at Indore Literature Festival, the book sold out like in a couple of hours. Like, we just set up our store, and the books were sold out, and people were actually, they did not buy it because they found the cover good. They were spending time going through the blurb, asking questions, and like they were discussing amongst themselves. It was a beautiful scenario, and they were like, okay, this is something that I think I want to read. And that is when I realized that this story is actually clicking with the young people who are actually working, interested to know more about what's in store in the future, and their readers as well. And I think it's absolutely a very beautiful plot to begin with.
Thank you.
So, so all my best wishes to you, and it's a wonderful story. Um, how do you think that um, artificial intelligence these days are impacting or has evolved at the workplace over the decades? Like, since you have been associated, so do you think there has been a drastic evolution of AI at workplace?
Um, I think my view is the revolution is yet to come. The last
Okay.
3 to 4 years, we've probably seen a very silent revolution. So One of the aspects, there is a physical aspect of AI, right? So you've got IoT, predictive analytics, big data, all of that running in the back end. So there is a physical thing like the Alexa that you see, or the chatbots that now you see in almost all companies, right? So there is a physical element that you're able to see, and also there is an invisible element that I'm sure everybody realizes now. You watch, for example, you Google Puma shoes, and or you Google Bata shoes on your Google, and then on Facebook you see Bata ads coming up, right? And you wonder
Right, right.
where is that coming from, right?
Yes,
Or
yes.
and that's so
Is my
surprising,
phone
right?
spying on me? Right.
Yeah. So that's AI in the back end. They have all your data, right? They know everything about you. In fact, they know more about you than what your partner does or what
You
you
know.
know about yourself. They, in fact, they know what you are going to buy tomorrow. They know what you will search 5 years. They know when if you're not married, they know when you will get married. If you're single, they know what kind of a person you're looking for, right? So they know everything. So it's all about placing those things just in a
Yes.
way that you can't resist. They know how much, what's your salary. They know what's your spending style. They know how much all that you purchase on Amazon, right? They know everything, right? So there is no escaping. So I think
Right.
in the commercial world, I mean, you've been sold. There is nothing much you can do. But in the corporate world, I think businesses are just waking up to the potential. Now, one of the reasons I feel is AI is a very costly adventure, right? Huge companies like Amazon, Google, Tata's, all of these guys can spend billions, and it is quite costly. But small companies, a 1,000-seater or a 5,000-seater or 100-seater company, a CEO who's got a limited budget, right? So they've been a little held back, but the cost of implementing AI now has become very, very cheap. And that's why you see a lot of these automated chatbots. They're very, very cheap now. And
Okay.
that's why if you're working in a corporate now, anybody, the chatbot is going to come and say, hi, how can I help you, right? In the
Hmm, hmm.
in future, you will have all those things, all those predictive things happening. And yes, some of the things that are mentioned in my novel, you will see an automated leader. In fact, a lot of warehouses today, like Amazon warehouses or any
Hmm, hmm,
Flipkart
hmm.
or all of these warehouses,
Right, right. Hmm,
they
hmm.
have taken away human beings and they have robots.
Hmm,
There
hmm.
is there is a company, I'm not able to remember the name, but it goes by the name Orange. They specialize in
Gray orange.
gray orange.
Gray
Yeah.
orange. Hmm.
So Gray Orange specializes in
Packaging.
robotic drones and robotic
Hmm, hmm,
settling of
hmm.
goods. So most
Hmm, hmm.
organizations, most warehouses, they've taken away people, and they
Right,
have these
right, right.
robots, right? So it's just a matter of time before AI
Hmm,
becomes smarter and smarter. Now AI is only
hmm.
doing your manual work. A leadership or a soft skill or a behavioral skill is difficult today, but I'm sure in 5 to 10 years now, AI will learn faster, and
Right.
you can't be surprised when there is an Alexa kind of a speaker and say, "Hi, I'm your colleague." uh,
Wow.
yeah, don't be surprised. That's going to happen very soon.
Another thing, I think, when I don't know how to articulate it, but when you are changing with the change, I mean, we are actually evolving along with the artificial intelligence, right? Along with science. So
Right.
that is why maybe we are unable to grasp the change because we are also evolving with it. But if we stand and if we take couple of steps back and try to observe, then we see that we are actually indeed surrounded by AI and artificial intelligence. In fact, as you mentioned, the bots, the chat bots, like we use WhatsApp, and I think the business account that sends an automatic reply when you send a hi and it sends an automatic reply. These are also bots, right? These are also artificial intelligence. So I think we are surrounded with it. We just need to, we have not been able to grasp that there's a lot has changed, but then I am sure it's not far away when we'll have Alexa kind of a thing as our colleague.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
uh, let's bask ourselves for that day. So you mentioned you have two little daughters. So I want to know if you read with them. How's the reading scenario at your family, at your home? Are you an avid reader? Do you read?
Oh yes, I do. I'm an avid reader, so I primarily read a lot of business or a lot of
Okay.
behavioral science because that's part of
Hmm.
my role. So I used to read a
Okay.
lot of HR and behavioral science. I used
Okay.
to read a lot of novels. I'm an old schooler.
Hmm.
John Grisham, David Baldacci, those days, decades ago. And then
Hmm.
I wanted to be. I was inspired to be a James Bond, a spy. When I read all of those, especially David Baldacci and all of those spy novels. Um, my wish is to read a lot of fiction, though I don't now.
Okay.
But my elder one is 9, and my younger one is just 2 years now. So the younger one,
Okay.
she's just tearing off all the pages. But
Okay.
what I've done is I've carefully, in fact, if I can just lift my around, so you see there's a library, a
Yes.
small
Yes. Yes.
library, right? So I've made sure that my daughters are surrounded with books. I think children are natural readers. They're curious.
Hmm.
All you
Hmm.
have to do is just give them a few books around. So in my house, you'll find books lying around everywhere. Okay, so especially
That's part of the decor.
that's part of the decor. And we have a reading time every night when we go to sleep. When she was little, I used to read her bedtime stories. So now she's progressed to Harry Potter. So I just bought her
Okay.
I
Wow.
think I don't know 5 or 7. I don't know how many, but I've bought her the complete set. She just started.
Okay.
So she was
Great.
earlier. It was My Little Ponies. I don't know those of you
Huh.
have kids. You know those faces, right? So she's moved to the Harry Potter face now.
That's true. I think my childhood fondest memories are also with books because um, I'm an early 80s born, and I think still now when I see those, the books are not like they're not in a very good state, but when I see the cover page or maybe a couple of pages or an illustration, they bring back some good memories. So I think it's a good thing to
Absolutely.
make children read.
Absolutely, I completely agree. So I mean, whenever I pick up one of my old books, right, I think I completely agree with you. You go back to the, you're
Right.
transported to that age. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So tell me, Joel, what are you reading? Like, if I want to ask you any recommendation or your current read, so tell me which book you are reading currently.
Okay. Again, unfortunately, I'm a little boring guy, so I read a lot of, like I said, tech
Non-fiction.
stuff. But one thing, I don't know if you see this. So this is
Oh,
something that
okay.
I'm reading
Atomic
right now. It's
Habits.
called Atomic Habits,
Yes,
James Clear.
yes, yes.
Everybody wants to change, right? All of us want to get better. We want to change, especially habits. I'm sure everybody has done this. Buy a new gym membership, buy new gym shoes, new clothes, go to gym for 1 week and then stop it, right? I'm sure everybody's done that, right?
Yes,
Diet.
yes.
Everybody. I'm going to eat only fruits for the next, and then eat fruit for one session and then go back, right? I'm
That's
sure
all.
all of us have done that. So this book, James Clear, tells you a very, very scientific and really, really researched way of how you can change your habits. So, in fact, we are actually trying to do the wrong thing. Again, I don't want to go too much into the book, but there are certain concepts that I realized. So it's about an identity change rather than habit change, right? So, I'll give you a very quick example if that's okay, Antara. When you're trying to change, for example, let's say somebody who is an overeater or somebody who's a lazy person, somebody who's a smoker, right? So, what are we trying to do? Generally, our goal is I want to quit smoking, or my goal is, I want to stop eating, or I want to go to the gym, right? That's a wrong way of
Right,
doing
right.
it because we're trying to change our outcomes, but we should begin with changing our identity, right? So a person who says, I'm a non smoker, right? Versus a person who says, I'm trying to quit. Two different goals, right? A person who says, I'm an active person, I'm a very active person, versus a person who says, oh, I'm trying to go to the gym, okay, are two different. A person who says, I'm healthy, versus a person who says, I'm trying to lose weight. Two different mindsets. So it starts with the mindset. I'll just leave with one quote. In this book, he says, winners and losers set the same goals. Yeah. So there is a reason why we don't achieve those. So I definitely recommend James Clear, Atomic Habits. Really, really insightful. A lot of wonderful tips, simple things that you could do. That's my recommendation.
Great. So what I'm going to do is after our session, I'm going to share this your recommendation as well as more about your book on our Instagram storyboard, so that our friends who want to understand or wants to take reference, they can do that from the storyboard. So I'll do that.
Sure.
That was wonderful talking to you, Joel. I'm so
Same here.
grateful that you agreed for this session tonight. But I'm really happy that we did it. It was lovely talking to you, and all my best wishes for the unexpected leader. But before we wrap up, I would quickly like to ask you if you are working on anything next, if there is any upcoming project you would like to share a sneak peek with us.
Yeah, I'm working on the next series of Unexpected Leaders. So I've got two or
Wow.
three things in mind. So like a lot of people said, I want to look at a little more larger than life science fiction. So I've got one. I've got two or three ideas. I don't think it's going to come up this year, but next year definitely you would see part two and part three coming up. Different, not the same characters.
Great.
But different stories, and there will be a lot of unexpected leaders coming up in those series. I'm thinking of forming a series.
Great. So I'm actually looking forward to reading that, and it sounds so interesting. Um, Almost like a web series. Actually, it could be turned to a web series.
Yeah. Hopefully one of these days.
So yeah, so we'll try to work on that as well. And so thank you for sharing all the insights and my best wishes, as I had mentioned. And I hope we get to do this again. Maybe when
Absolutely. I
you're
just loved it.
next.
I like your questions, right? So
Thank you so much.
yeah, so a lot of great questions, not those boring questions, right? So but I think really, really interesting question. I just loved this conversation, Antara.
Thank you so much. And let's do it again sometime soon when your next book is
Sure,
out.
sure. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks everyone. Good night.
So, friends, that was Joel Sadhanand, the author of The Unexpected Leader. This book is available on Amazon and Notion Press's online bookstore. So if you want to grab a copy, go ahead and do that. You can also get the Kindle format if you are a bit skeptical to keep the virus away. Get a Kindle, read it, enjoy it. Do share your reviews with us as well. Till next Sunday, take care. I'll see you with another guest. Good night. Happy reading. Bye.